Institute of Engineering and Technology.
Hello students, today we are going to start a new chapter in our syllabus of Mathematics 1, which is matrix algebra. Matrix algebra is one of the most useful branch of engineering mathematics. It will help you a lot to determine the intersection of different linear structures. You already know how to find intersection of lines. Today we are starting a topic or starting a journey in which you will find how to go for intersections of planes. In fact, we can also see how to find intersection of linear structures in n dimension. Later on, we'll also go through some basic and the fundamental properties of matrices which you already know. You have gone through determinant of the matrix, you know how to find adjoint of the matrix, although you know how to find inverse of the matrix. But as we all know, these techniques are all analytical techniques. Analytical in the sense we cannot develop algorithm for all those techniques. So in this chapter, our main focus would be on how to construct a method in such a way that we can convert it into a code. As all of us know that if we can convert any procedure of mathematical expression in form of algorithm, computer language will help us to find the solution. So basically, this chapter is all about matrix algebra, its applications, and how to use algorithms or how to convert our regular techniques into algorithms. So today in this talk, we are going to consider our first and the foremost fundamental form of the matrix, which is known as row-echelon form or echelon form. In upcoming talks, we are going to discuss techniques to find inverse of the matrix, how to solve system of linear equations, although after that we'll go for a separate part of matrix algebra, which is eigenspace. So today we are going to start our first part in this chapter, which is fundamental form of matrix known as row-echelon form and reduced row-echelon form. So let us start this first part in matrix algebra, which is row-echelon form, and the definition of this form is something like this. If you have any rectangular matrix, then in that rectangular matrix we are dividing our rows into two categories, 0 rows and non-zero rows. 0 row means all entries in that particular row is always 0, and non-zero row means in any row if at least one entry is non-zero, then that row is known as non-zero rows. So this structure is also defined on basis of these two categories of rows. First property is on 0 rows. So in row-echelon form of the matrix, all 0 rows are always below non-zero rows. That means they are at the bottom of the given matrix. Now let us come to the non-zero rows. Before defining property for non-zero rows, we need to develop a fundamental ideology about pivot or non-zero entry. If you consider any non-zero row and if you start from the left hand side, the first non-zero entry is known as pivot of the row. This pivot is also known as leading one. One doesn't mean it is numerically one, it is leading one to all non-zero entries, which may be or may not be present in the row. This pivot is playing a crucial role in our row-echelon form. So now let us consider condition for non-zero row. In any two non-zero rows, the leading one, or as we know, pivot of a lower row is always on the right hand sided column. Let us understand these two properties by example. So if I take example, this is the example. Here in this matrix, I considered 0 rows and non-zero rows both at a time. Remember, it is not necessary that always your matrix will contain 0 as well as non-zero row. It may happen that matrix is full with 0 rows. It may happen that matrix is full with non-zero rows. These conditions are up to existence of 0 and non-zero rows. So here 0 rows are existing, so they are at the bottom of the matrix. So it fulfills our first condition. Now let us come to the second part. What about non-zero rows? If I take non-zero rows, then I should start from the topmost non-zero row. You can see clearly here in the first row itself, the first entry is non-zero and it is by number 1. Now consider lower row, means second row. In second row, your pivot is defined by 2 and it is exactly at location A22. A22 means second row, second column. Now we need to check whether it is satisfying our pivotal conditions or not. So if I move from up to down, my pivots are shifted on the right hand side. Now again, it may happen that your pivots are not at the immediate right, but it is somewhere on the right side. It may be after 2 or 3 positions. That is also considered as a good satisfaction of this condition. Now if we move from second to third row, you can see clearly here that -5 is coming in the fourth column, whereas 2 is in the second column. So again, it is in a well formation. Here my pivot is again shifted to the right. It may happen that it is on the immediate right. It may happen it is on the column which is far away from the pivotal column in the upper row. So I hope it is clear now that if you consider pivots of row echelon form, if you move from the up to down row, the pivots are shifted on the right hand side. So this is how we are defining row echelon form. Now the easiest check is this. If you have a pivot entry in row echelon form, lower entries must be 0. This will automatically shift your pivots of the lower row onto the right hand side like this. See, I am not highlighting my third column as it is not a pivotal column. Column number 1, column number 2 and column number 4, they are pivotal columns. And then the pivots are 1, 2 and -5. Now let us check our condition. If I focus only on these pivots, you can see clearly the pivot of the lower row, which is 2, is shifted on the right hand side. Pivot of the third row is shifted on the right hand side. So it may happen that it is on the immediate right. It may happen it is on the right side on the other or next to the next column. So this is a valid row echelon form. Now these are some other examples. Now in this example, you will see clearly that there are all non-zero rows. So it is not necessary that always your matrix is with 0 row. It may happen that it is without 0 row. Still it can be in row echelon form. But the conditions for non-zero rows must be satisfied. Here again you can see clearly that the pivots are 1, 1 and 1. And they are exactly at A11, A22, A33. So obviously they are shifted on the right hand side by moving below on the non-zero rows. Now let me consider one rectangular structure also. Now here there are 3 columns and 3 pivots again. My pivotal columns are 1, 2 and 5. Pivot positions A11, A22 and A35. Again all pivots are 1. So I hope this part is clear. What do we mean by row echelon form and whether there are possibility for rows and columns in form of row echelon form or not. Now once we have this row echelon form of the matrix, the natural question would be, is there possibility that there are more than one row echelon form, or do we have a uniqueness in this row echelon form of the matrix? And for that we need to consider this particular statement. For any matrix there exist more than one row echelon forms. Now what do we mean by this? See, in all row echelon forms of the matrix, the uniqueness is up to the position of pivots. Now what is meaning of this? For example, if I consider one particular part or one thing in which I will convert my matrix into row echelon form, in that I will show you that how there is a possibility of various row echelon forms of the matrix. Now remember one thing, whenever you are converting your matrix into row echelon form, only and only row operations are allowed. We cannot go for column operations anytime to find row echelon form of the matrix. So let us consider one example. In this, I will give you one row echelon form of the given matrix, and I will also show you that how actually there are many row echelon forms possible for given matrix A. Suppose this is the given matrix, a 4 cross 5 rectangular matrix, and my task is to convert this into row echelon form to identify pivotal columns and pivots of this matrix A. So let us start our part. Now as we can see here, at the first strike only this all 5 rows are non-zero rows. So now my task is to convert my first and the topmost left entry A11 into 1. So for that I will search into the column whether there is any value 1 or not. I can see clearly my last row contains value 1 in the first column. So what I will do, I will shift row 1 and row 4. So after interchanging row 1 and 4, my new values are this. So this is known as equivalent matrix. Okay, this is not equal matrix, but it is equivalent matrix. So now my first pivotal entry of the first row is 1. I can use this entry 1 to convert all lower entries into 0. So here you can see I converted my original matrix into this using R14. Now this new symbol R14, it indicates I am interchanging row 1 and row 4. Now next task, converting lower entries into 0. Now you can see clearly lower entries are -1, -2 and 0. Last entry is already 0. I need to worry about only -1 and -2. And for that, what I can do? I can take addition of row 1 into row 2. I can take addition of row 1 with row 3, but by multiplying it by 2. So my focus is on this orange part. I want to convert all lower entries into 0. So what I did, I multiplied row 1 with 2 and added it into third row. I multiplied row 1 with 1 and added it into second row. And correspondingly all other row entries are following same rule. So now at the end of second transaction we have this process. R12 indicates R row 1 multiplied by 1 and added into 2. Row 1 multiplied by 2 added into 3. Now next thing. Now my first row is totally into the row echelon form. So now I am not worried about row 1 and I will not use even this row 1 for the further calculation. So you can say I am freezing this first row, or you are locking this first row at this junction. Now our focus is always onto the lowermost rows. So now my point is shifted from first row to second row. I will search where there is a pivot in the second row. So I get that pivot is at location A22 and it is denoted by 2. And then I will search whether there is any entry 1 or not below this entry 2. You cannot check for the upper entries. So it is 2, 5 and -3. And that simply means that there is no value which is equal to 1. Now at this junction, what you can do, you can divide your second row throughout by 2. You can divide your third row throughout by 5. And that will give you value 1. and that will also change the value of pivot. But see, what I did over here is I multiplied my second row by minus 5 by 2 and added into third. I multiplied my second row with 3 by 2 and added into row number 4. And that will give me lower entries 5 and minus 3 to be 0. So now this is the new matrix which we are deriving at the end of this new row operation. So these row operations are R2 multiplied by minus 5 by 2 added into 3, R2 multiplied by 3 by 2 added into 4. So now clearly my matrix is following row echelon form for first and second rows. Now I will move to the third row. Surprisingly, third row is with all 0 entries. So now what I will do, I will interchange my third and fourth row. Once I interchange my third and fourth row, I will get that my third row is now satisfying row echelon form directly. So these are the pivots of the matrix. So at the fourth transition only, I converted my matrix into row echelon form. So I hope this part is clear. So you can go through this full flow of conversion of matrix into row echelon form. Remember one thing, once your pivot is with all lower entries 0, you cannot touch that row for the further calculation. Okay, so my answer is this. My pivotal columns are 1, 2 and 4 and my pivots are 1, 2 and minus 5. So now the main question, whether these values 1, 2 and minus 5 are unique or not. Answer is simply no. You can divide your second row with 2. That is also a valid form of row echelon form, but that will change the value of pivot. You can divide your third row with minus 5. So it depends on the selection of row operations, but in all possible row echelon forms of the matrix, what will remain same? The thing which will remain same in all possible row echelon forms is location or position of pivots. So whatsoever be the value of pivot, it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be minus 5, it can be 1, 1, 1, but ultimately they will be at this highlighted spot only, means in column number 1, 2 and column number 4. At position A11, A22 and A34. So I hope this fundamental of row echelon form is clear. Believe me, this will help you a lot, or this procedure will help you a lot to find almost all properties of matrices, like how to find the rank of the matrix, how to find values which are dependent on matrices, how to solve system of linear equations using matrices. Now the main question, if I want to find rank of this matrix, how I can consider rank? See here, the number of non-zero rows or number of pivots will give you rank of the matrix. For that, actually you are using method of determinant. Now let us go for the properties. As I told you, there are certain properties which will help you to find determinant of the matrix. Suppose you have square matrix, and then if you are converting your matrix into row echelon form, then multiplication of diagonal entries is nothing but determinant of the matrix. Rank of the matrix is nothing but total number of pivots into the row echelon form of the matrix. Now let us move to the second main part of matrix algebra, and it is known as reduced row echelon form. That means we are now going to reduce our already existing row echelon form. So the condition which I want to mention at first is your matrix must be in row echelon form. This is a fundamental condition. And then the additional condition is like this, that all entries into the pivotal columns are 0 except pivot itself. So now in row echelon form we are looking for the lower entries only. They must be 0, but now in reduced row echelon form, lower as well as upper entries of pivots must be 0. This is the example. Here you can see, first of all you need to check whether it is row echelon form or not. All three pivots are in the diagonal A11, A22, A33. But if you look carefully, in all of these entries in these two matrices, the pivotal columns contains all entries 0 except pivot entry itself. Like in first matrix, my pivotal columns are 1, 2 and 3. You can see clearly that pivot entries are 1, rest of the entries are 0. Whereas in second matrix, it is 1, 2 and 5. We are not worried about non-pivotal columns. They can be any random numbered value, but the pivotal columns must be with pivot equal to 1. See, I am mentioning here pivots must be equal to 1 in reduced row echelon form, and all other entries must be 0. Let us consider one example. Suppose I want to convert this matrix into row reduced form or reduced row echelon form. So I need to convert first of all my first and the topmost entry into 1. This is always our first step in converting matrix into row echelon form. So what I'll do, I will interchange row 1 and 3, and then I will use row number 1 to convert lower row into 0. So what I'll do, I will take multiplication of row 1 with -1 and then I will add it into second row. So now I am done with my first row. So first row is now locked. We cannot use this first row for the further calculation. So I am moving to the second row, and my first entry, which is non-zero, is 2 at A22. I will use that entry to convert lower entry into 0. I will multiply row 2 with -3 by 2, and then I will add it into third row. So again it will convert my lower entries into 0. So here you can see clearly that my pivots are 1, column number 1 pivotal column, column number 2 and column number 5, and entries are 3, 2 and 1 respectively. So this is nothing but the row echelon form of the matrix, and this is a valid row echelon form. Now I want to go for the reverse calculation. So select the bottommost pivot and convert upper entries into 0. Like here, in this case, what I'll do, I will select first of all this last possible pivotal column or the rightmost possible pivotal column, and I will select that pivot 1, and I will convert 2 and 6 upper entries into 0. And for that, what I will do, I will take R3 multiplied by -2 and addition into 2. R3 multiplied by -6 addition into 1. This will convert my upper entries into 0. So here you can see this row, or sorry, this column, pivotal column number 5, it satisfies reduced row echelon form. Okay, now I will move to the upper pivot, which is 2. So now my focus is on the second row and its pivot 2. Lower entry is already 0, upper entry is -9, so I am converting that by -9 into 0. But I can see clearly here the second row is all multiples of 2. So what I will do, I will divide it by 2. That means I will scale it. So I converted my entry into 1. And then I will use this entry 1 to convert upper value into 0. So I will multiply my second row with 9 and I will add it into first row. So it will convert upper entry into 0. So now my 2 columns are pivotal columns in reduced row echelon form. Now my last calculation is for the first and the topmost pivot, which is 3. And for that I will just scale my first row with 1 by 3. So divide it throughout by 1 by 3, and that means now fifth, second and first, all 3 columns are satisfying reduced row echelon form. So I hope all of you know how to convert this matrix into reduced row echelon form. So this row echelon form and reduced row echelon form, they are going to play a very crucial role in our further calculation. You should always try yourself some random matrix into row echelon form and then further into reduced row echelon form. If you have any doubt, you should again revise this video, pause and ponder particularly at a particular moment, and try to check or try to apply different row operations to find the answer. Our upcoming lecture is about how to find inverse of the matrix using a technique which will develop the algorithm which you can code actually later on. Thank you.
LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology.